All right. I'll wait a little bit for some people to join. But the idea of the stream, in fact, let me just clean some of this stuff up. I don't like how he put all his Tailwind stuff on like multi-lines. It just makes it impossible to like really read through the code and understand the logic, like the intent of your components when you have all this stuff on the same line. All right, so as people are coming in, I'm not sure who's in the channel yet or the chat yet, but a subscriber sent me some code and asked if I could just kind of review it and refactor whatever. So that's what we're trying to do today. And before I dive into doing that, I'm just fixing some of his Tailwind stuff, like to make it easier for me to actually like read through his code. Because he put all of his Tailwind classes on like new lines, which I'm not a fan of. And I think there's a CSS, there's like an extension you can use in VS Code that like folds this stuff for you. Maybe we can kind of figure that out on live chat right now too. Hopefully I'm not breaking this entire app by doing this. Oops. Where else is he doing this stuff? He does some here. And if there's an easier way I could do this, like let me know. Probably is. But I think I'm almost done with this file. Nope. Still got some more here. Yeah, there has to be an easier way to fix this stuff. Anyway, is that good? Anyway, that was kind of bothering me, so it just makes it harder to read the actual like intent behind your component and your logics when you have like all this stuff on different lines. Like here, I guess it's okay to have like a ternary, but I'm not really a fan of, I'd rather use a class names library to kind of clean that up. All right, what's up, y'all? Welcome to the stream. I'm just kind of refactoring some code. That's about it. So here's the application that a subscriber sent me. He has like this online chat room course thing, or I don't know what he's making, like an online, like a paid service. You can go and like get courses. But he specifically asked me if I can kind of review one section of his code called the create quiz. So like you can go in here and you can create quizzes. So I could like put in like, how do you want to call your quiz? We can call this quiz a React JS quiz. And then a short description. Quiz on all the React things. He has the ability to add tags, so I could do like React. And I'm not a fan of this. Like, I don't know what's going on here with this button. But like one thing that's weird is watch my cursor. Like the button is causing my cursor to go from a normal to a pointer. And I can click it there. I don't know. We probably should fix that. Seems kind of weird. But yeah, you can make tags. You can delete the tags like this. So pretty cool. And then we click next, you go to another page where you can actually start making your questions. So like this one could be like, what hook should you use to keep track of state? And then he has the ability to add answers. So I could say use effect. I say use callback. Use memo. Use state. And then I guess he has the ability to toggle which one's the correct answer here. and then you can save it, go back and you can edit it. You can delete some stuff. And then finally you go to our review page, which doesn't show anything. And then you create the quiz, and that quiz will be put onto your dashboard. And then it shows 2 quiz created posts. I don't know if you saw that. They popped up on the right, but yeah, that's about it. And the cool thing is he has like Node Mailer set up, so I can actually send an email to myself and like log in. Like they'll send me an email to my email here. It's pretty cool. But yeah, you can try deleting the quiz too. Got a cool little modal coming up. Deleting the quiz doesn't. Okay, took a while. So yeah, let's just go back to the create quiz component and let's just see if there's anything that we could potentially do to clean up the code in the create quiz. Mohammed Mimon, can you review my app? I mean, you can join my Discord and you can send a link to your GitHub repo. And I could potentially do it at one point. But I've gotten a lot of requests, so it's hard to like keep up with all of them. But yeah, let's just read through the code. I think we have a good understanding of like how this thing works. And if you go to the pages, so I think he's using Next.js with T3 stack, so kind of familiar territory. So that would be cool to look through. Over here, he has the pages. I don't know if I need to zoom in just a little bit for you all. Pages. So we have create quiz page. If we look at this page, this is where we are kind of creating this quiz, right? So if we look through this code, what is this doing? So he has a mutation called create quiz. Which I'm not sure what he's doing with this. I guess this is so he can show the toast. Makes a mutation called quiz.createQuiz. He has an effect that listens for new quiz. It's set to null by default. And then the moment it gets set, we then save it to the backend. This kind of seems like a code smell to me. Like listening to state changes so that you can then fire off a backend event seems like a code smell. So I'm gonna put a to do. Code smell refactor me. The more I use React, the more I realize that you should not use like the use effect hook if possible. Use effect just adds complexity and complexity to your code base. It just makes it really hard to understand how stuff's working. So if you can not do stuff like this, if you can find a way to sorry, implement this solution without using effects, your code will just be easier to understand. Like, what is he doing here? So create quiz. This is a mutation. And when the mutation is created, he checks if something was successful, and then he shows quiz created. So this is like how he shows the toast. He clears out the old quiz. And then he pushes to a new page. Okay. So that's just a little overview of how this stuff works. I mean, we might need to refactor this too. But let's look at the multi-step. So he has like a spinner here while it's creating. It's going to show a spinner. But then he has a multi-step create form quiz, which takes in that new quiz. So off the bat, I mean, like what I would do instead of this, let's just try to refactor this. I'm going to say on quiz created. Okay, and we're not going to pass in this state thing if possible. I don't think this thing needs to know about the quiz state. And again, I don't know if this is the best approach, but I feel like this component should be in charge of knowing when the quiz was created or not. and it should just get passed back like some type of quiz data. On create quiz. Yeah, I don't know what I want to call this. But anyway, let's just go ahead and like put a function here called like const handle create quiz. And I'm kind of doing like a container approach where this top level create quiz page is the container that knows how to do stuff. And that's going to take in the state here. So technically, like, we don't need the state here. And what we could do is when this thing comes in, like when this component tells us that we need to create the quiz, we could just go ahead and call this. Okay, so that gets rid of that hook. Like that, the use effect, again, like this was a code smell in my opinion, and we don't need to listen for data to change. Like we don't have to pass in a setter to a lower component and then listen for when that state changes just to do something, right? If you can do it on the callback of a click handler or, I don't know, a form submission, then that's probably the first place that you should do it. And this thing, I guess TypeScript is kind of complaining. I'll just put any here, but I'll come back and maybe fix this because I don't know what data quiz data has, right? So now it's just like a random thing. Let's delete that. Let's delete that. And technically, like, you could put the whole mutation in the subcomponent as well if you wanted to. I don't know if that'll make it easier. But what we could do is, what's this? When it's successful. So he's using mutate async. This is a trpc/react query method you can use. If you just wait on it, like, you'll know when it's done. So everything down here is going to be successful, which means that we could just go ahead and push to the overview page, and we could show the toast as well. And I believe this will throw, like, this is a try catch, so I think it'll throw an error if for whatever reason you couldn't create the quiz. So I think we can kind of delete that too. We don't need another use effect, and just delete all the use effects here. All right, the more you can get rid of use effects, the cleaner your code is going to be, in my opinion. You might have a different opinion than that, but I don't find use effect to be intuitive. I find it to be confusing. So we did some changes. Let's make sure that if we go to the quiz form, one thing is he's using TypeScript, but he's not having, like, there's no prop validation. So like if I were to not pass anything, I don't get any IntelliSense. So we should probably go into here and like make this take in some type of prop. Like on create quiz. We could we could type the actual like arguments that come in. And what this needs to be is it needs to be a function that doesn't do anything. So you could say it returns void. Sorry, I'm getting over like kind of like a cold, so my throat is like, I got some congestion going on. But anyway, let's just go ahead and say like quiz data, and that's going to be any for right now. We'll come back and try to figure out like what quiz data needs to be. But when you do that, let me move this. I like to have my pages on the left and my other like lower level components on the right. When I do that, I get some IntelliSense knowing that I'm not doing something correct, right? So when possible, all your React components, if you're using TypeScript, like at least type your arguments, give them something, anything at least. Like you can even give that anything, so that when I forget to pass it, like I get some help, I get some feedback that says, hey, you forgot to pass that in. Because if you don't put a type here, I think you get the point, but like I don't think it's gonna warn you that you're not passing something. Okay, well maybe it does, but you get the point. Just add real types to your stuff. So to get this still working, like this thing needs to call on create quiz somewhere. Let's look through the code base. Probably at the bottom there's a button. Right here. So create quiz, step 3. So, whew, sorry y'all. What we need to put it to do, like we need to call on create quiz. That's like the original refactoring that we're doing, but okay, I'll just do it. I'm sorry, sometimes I like get ahead of myself and like I do too much, and I should just like not do too much. So I think this is where he was like setting the data at the higher level and then using effect to know when the data changed and then firing off a mutation and then listening for another change on that mutation to know when it's done. Just call this method. That's it. And I don't like putting like external variables here. Like just put them inline if you can. It's less stuff to have to like read. Because like if there's a variable up here, you think it might be used somewhere else in your code base, but it's just used in the line below. So like why would you put it in a variable above to begin with? Just inline it. So I know this is the only place this thing is ever used. And what I would do is like, now that we know the definition, like I kind of read through his code base, I understand the structure of what a quiz looks like. We could make a type for the quiz. So let's just go up here. I don't know where the best place to put it here, but I'm gonna go ahead and say like type quiz. And one thing that I've been doing in TypeScript is I've been prefixing my types with T's and my interfaces with I's. I don't know if that's a good approach. You let me know. But it's easier because like you have components that have capital letters called like a quiz component. But the types of the quiz models or entities you're passing around might also be called quiz. So I just find it easier to just put a T in front of it and like it's a type. It's kind of like very Java. It kind of reminds me of Java, but that's where I first started Java, and I think it makes sense to kind of do some stuff. So we're just kind of we're trying to type some of this stuff. The name has a type of string, description probably type string, question added quiz question. I'm guessing that's a string as well. We might have to go back and figure this out. I'm gonna put any here in tag. I'm gonna believe it's a string of any. So let's look at where tags is used. Tag is an array of tags. So let's go back and we're gonna go ahead and move this here. I would probably put all my types together like so. And then what is question? Let's try to figure out where question is used. Added quiz question, set added quiz question. So he maps over, it's an array that has a name and an answers. New question answers. This is also an array. Okay, this is getting crazy. So let's just not worry about that yet. I want to make sure I didn't break everything. So let's go back. And what I was trying to do here is like, we have this function that we created, which takes an any. I wanted to make this actually take in a tquiz so that we know and we get some feedback like what this thing actually needs to take in. And you could put it here as well. And we probably need to auto import it from here. So I'm going to export it like so. And mutate async. We'll come back to that. We got any more errors? So the whole point of that is like, now I get some intelligence of like, what exactly do we need? What properties do we need to create a quiz? You need names, description, question, and tags. Now this data structure, as we saw before, like, I think it's like an array of nested arrays, so we're not going to bother with refactoring that just yet. But let's fix this issue. So it's saying that argument of tquiz is not assignable to parameter type void. Now I think since he's using trpc, I should probably look at the mutation, which I guess I can go to like the quiz router. Does he have like a router for quizzes? Quiz router. Okay, that's a pretty good named file. Mutation create quiz. Mutate async. So this thing takes in. Wait, where's quiz data defined? Tags and questions. That's all it needs is tags and questions. So I kind of wonder why he's saving name on it. Input is any. So again, like if you're using Zod, like try not to use any's. Like if you can, like actually define a real an object. So like right now, I don't know like what does this endpoint take? It could take anything, but really it's like your backend only cares about name, description. So let's actually try to type this out a little bit. Let's give it name, description. What else do we need? Tags. That could be any, I guess, for right now. Question could be any. It's always good to do iterative refactoring. So just add like the smallest amount of types that you can to like get it to a point that's better. Like these, obviously these, you don't want to use any here. You want to actually determine like, what is this? This is an array of like other type of objects, but going down that path right now is not something I want to do. So that adding those types, fix that. So let's try it out. I mean, I probably broke something. We have this create quiz page. I'm going to type in some random stuff, add a tag, go ahead and add an answer. What is up? Update it, and then click next. And hopefully if I click create quiz, everything should work as it did before. And he gave me an actual like env file that points to a real database. That's why it kind of takes a while. I don't have a local running Postgres database right now. It's actually hitting like a real database. So if he were to go in and like delete his database right now, this live stream would probably be ruined. So always good to like figure out how to run this stuff locally. And man, my throat. They figure out how to run it locally, figure out how to mock everything out. Like right now he's probably using some type of like next auth for login. If you can find a way to like not have to actually connect to a Google and not have to have your Google account set up just so you can log into your locally running application, it's gonna be much better. Same with like the Postgres database. Like if you can figure out a way to run that without having to connect to a real running database, which looking through his project, I didn't see any like Docker files. I didn't see any Docker Compose files. I don't know if I want to share anything that you might have in here. I guess that was in the README, so. Yeah, I don't know. If he didn't want anything shared on it, then he probably should have removed it from the project before I made a video. So yeah, let's see. Let me go to the chat. I haven't seen the chat in a while. Oh wow, what's up, y'all? A lot of people joining. Welcome, welcome. Love your content, bro. Keep doing it. Hugs from Brazil. I don't know where that is. I'm a typical American where I don't even know like the flags of different countries. Hey, it is Brazil. I got it right. What's going on? I zoomed in and now I can't zoom back out. Let me just do a refresh here. One second. Let me pop out this chat. I've completely messed up what I'm doing here. All right, I only do it for interfaces. Yeah, so the whole prefix with the I's and the T's, some people only do it for interfaces. He is using Zod, so yeah, you can infer schemas. Let's see. One thing I don't understand about React is how do you know what is the return type of parameters passed to a method? How do you know what is a return type of parameters? I'm not sure. Do you mean the return type of what the function actually returns? And I don't know if this is a React question. This is more like a TypeScript question or a JavaScript question. I don't know if you can rephrase this question. Maybe it's too early for me to understand. Let's see. Adam says, what is the difference between JS and TS? Everyone says TS adds types to JS. I don't understand what they mean by types. So, I mean, you might have already saw, like, adding types. Right now, like, we have a function that takes in something. We don't know what this thing is. It's just an arbitrary object, right? This could have anything on it. And when I do quiz data dot, I don't know what this thing could have on it, right? It could have 1,000 properties. They could be named in a certain way. And for me to figure out what this thing is taking in, I have to go find in the code base, like what is calling it or something. Like right here, I have to go dive into this form, figure out what's being passed to this. And it's just kind of, it's bad. So like, if I go to the place that we're calling it, which is down here, again, like this is a function and we have no idea what it takes in. Does this thing take in like 3 arguments? Right? Does it take in a single argument with an object like this? We don't know because we're using JavaScript. The moment you bring in TypeScript though, you have the ability to type your parameters and your arguments and what's returned. So now I can put this thing and say this is a tquiz type, which has a name, description, question, and tags. So now whenever I call this method, if I ever forget something or if I mistype something, which is probably the most common use case, if I call it tag instead of tags, my editor is going to complain to me right off the bat. So it kind of gives me that additional hand-holding and feedback, which as a beginner is like, that's what you need. You don't want to waste 20 minutes because you typed description wrong or you switched. You typed it like that and you just don't recognize that you just did a small typo. TypeScript will, light it up for you and tell you, you're doing something wrong. So that's what types are, and that's why you use TypeScript. What are interfaces used for? Interfaces are like some descriptions you can put on functions or classes or components that explain like what data does it take in and what data does it return. I think types are typically more for like the individual things that might be passed in as argument. So like this whole function could be an interface in a sense because it takes in arguments and it returns something. But the individual things that you pass into it might be more useful to treat those as types, like data types that you're passing around your application. Some people use types for everything. Some people use interfaces for everything. I don't know what the best approach is, but just do something that works for you and your project. Adonis.js. I played around with Adonis.js once, but yeah, I don't really use it that much anymore. It seemed like it's pretty good. How do you get your IntelliSense to show in VS Code? I'm not really sure. I mean, if you use TypeScript off the bat, like you're going to get IntelliSense, right? So that's kind of why you should probably use TypeScript. How not to over refactor. Yeah, I don't know why you'd prefer types over interfaces. I don't know. I know interfaces and types, like some of them you can extend other types. But I think like if you come from other static languages, like in Java, like an interface is actually like something specific for like the function definition is an interface. Or like, I don't know. I don't think it makes sense to just prefer one over the other. I think it makes sense to use them with their different use cases, but I need to go read up on that more. So someone asked, how not to over refactor? That's a good question. So there's like different ways that you can clean up your code, right? There's keeping your code dry, which is looking through your code and try to figure out where did you maybe duplicate code? Like where did you copy and paste code? And is there a way to not copy and paste that code so that it's cleaner to use? I got distracted. Let me clean up this little class. So what we're doing right now isn't really drying up our code. Like the refactoring I've done has been more of like a TypeScript refactoring in a React, like get rid of the use effect refactoring to make it easier to understand. So there's like different things you can follow to keep your code refactored and make sure that it's good. But also like you don't want to over dry your code. Like you can just get into this endless loop of like making stuff better, and like over abstracting stuff. I think just get it to a point where it's easier to understand and read and like call it a day. You can also like time box it, like say, I'm just going to spend an hour. That's it. An hour. I'm going to try to clean up what I can. And then I'll come back later and try to do some more refactoring if needed. So it's a hard question to answer. It's just a personal preference. But if you ever feel like you're changing code and moving code and like now the code's even more complex than it was before, then that's when you reach the point of like you need to stop refactoring because you just made the code even more difficult to understand. Like you're shooting for simplicity. You should be able to read through your code and it should make sense as you read it. All right, so this button, I think this button could be refactored a little bit. Mainly because it's just a personal preference, but like this button is doing two things. So there's like this idea of single responsibility principle where you have a single component should be in charge of one thing and just one thing. That's it. This button is in charge of two things. This button, if you click it, or if you're on the very last step of your thing, if you go back to the code, remember we had okay, let me go through here real quick. So we had a create quiz button, and then if you're not on the create quiz button, we have a next button. I did not mean to hit that, but basically, if you're on the very last step of the wizard, he shows this button that says create quiz, and then he has some if statements that say, if you're on the last step, do this. If you're not, do that. This is a good example of when you've tried to over abstract something, right? You have one button that's kind of acting as two separate buttons, but you might have gone down the path of, oh, I want to, I want to reduce the amount of lines, so I'm just going to combine all the logic into a single button. This is not what you want to do, in my opinion. What you want to do instead is make two separate buttons. So I'm going to copy this entire thing. And I'm going to go ahead and do this. So if we're on current step 3, we are going to go ahead and just render out this button. And I'll be honest, people like using ternaries. I hate ternaries. I think they're harder to understand and read. So I actually just like doing something like this. If you're not on step 3, do this other button. You can, voice your opinions in the chat if you like ternaries, but I think ternaries just make the code a lot harder to understand. Instead of just doing something like this, where off the bat I know it's either this or that, right? So yeah, so we have, I would also clean this up. Like current step is equal to 3. I have no idea what that even means. But what I could actually do is go to the top and make a constant called like is on last step. There. Simple as that. So now we have a constant that like describes what step are we on in the wizard. I don't like the 3 either, being hard-coded. That's kind of not good. I won't worry about that right now. So instead of like saying this logic, I'm going to say is on last step, or you're not on the last step, which would be this one. Okay, so again, if I were to collapse these, you read through this and you say, okay, are we on the last step of the wizard? Yeah, so this needs to be displayed, whatever this is. Are we not on the last step? Then this one needs to be displayed. Okay. And then if you look at the actual buttons, inside of this button, we just don't need to do this logic, right? We don't need to do that. If we're on the last step, we're going to create the quiz. I don't know why he's doing this if statement here. Don't create the quiz if you don't have a quiz name set. He probably should have done that check on the first part of his wizard, like this part. Like don't allow them to go next unless they have the next button, which I guess is more of like this one. So this button called create quiz. Don't need double quotes for that. And now this button, we don't need this one. And we just need to say next. All right, so does this work? Let me make sure I go do some stuff. All right, so the buttons now still work. Kind of. Why is this one not being highlighted anymore? Anyway, so does that kind of make sense? Like, if there is no quiz name, return. Yeah. And this also gives you more flexibility, right? Let's say you're working with a designer or someone who's knows better about design, and they say, you know what? We need the very last step, the create quiz button. That needs to be green. Well, now since you've separated those the components because they are kind of two separate components, you can do that, right? You're not resharing the same component for like your entire wizard. You have a way to designate like separate stylings for this component, and it's pretty simple to figure out where that needs to be. So again, keep your components like scoped to what they're doing, right? So every button that has like different unique text, that's probably a good sign that you need to have a completely different button that does something else. Um, yeah, so let's see. Does that make sense? Let's go back. What do you do when you get bored coding? Sometimes I try to play some games or just go on TikTok and watch TikTok videos or whatnot. I would like to learn Angular with you. I don't work with Angular anymore, so I would not be a good person to teach Angular. What to put in the hooks directory? You put your hooks. So like in React, you can make custom hooks. So like those are functions that start with like the prefix use. That's what I would put in your hooks directory. If you do have a hooks directory. What can we use instead of use effect hook? So if you're not, I guess you're talking about in terms of this refactoring, if you're not using the use effect hook, try to run as much logic as you can when the user actually does something. So if they click on a button, run all the code that would be necessary to do whatever you need inside of that on-click handler, right? You can move it to the top of the file if you want to, or do it inline. I typically like to do stuff at the top of the file, so I might refactor that as well. But only use the effect on like a component mount, and really the use effect I think is more meant for like interacting with third-party libraries or services, such as if you need to set up WebSockets or like have a WebSocket connection going. I think if you're overusing use effect, your code just becomes really hard to understand, especially if you're using it just to listen for state changes. Like that doesn't make sense to me. I'd rather pass some type of callback function all the way down my tree and invoke it so that the top level component knows to do something versus like having it change state and then that state refires something. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's, we're talking like nanoseconds of performance changes using double ands versus ternary, I believe. I just think it's hard, ternaries are very hard to read, and especially when you get into a React project that has a ternary with more nested ternaries, you've just gone off the deep end of complexity because now it's like you can't really easily read through the component, right? Either the component displays or not, and like you should have a single thing on the left that explains like why this is being displayed. If you have like, I don't know, step is equal to 3 and not logged in and needs to accept cookies button. If you're doing something like this, you're doing something wrong in my opinion. Like this should always ever be a single thing. So you take this whole statement and bring it to the top and declare it as like a constant so it's easier to read. Um, so yeah, just don't, I wouldn't do that. Like try to keep your components as logicless as possible so it's easier to read through and understand like when something shows, when something doesn't. Yeah, I wouldn't even say it's for clean. Like, I don't even know what the ternary is for. Like, it's good if you're doing like a small ternary, like, for example, in like your CSS classes. But even this is like, this is confusing. We can improve this at like by using a third-party library. So I'm gonna go ahead and install class names. I don't know if he already has it. He doesn't. npm install save class names. like I understand like sometimes it's cool to use like JavaScript and just don't bring in third-party dependencies. But if you're going to argue that this is cleaner than just bringing in the class names library, I would say you're wrong. Class names from class names, right? So just bring in class names. Let's go back to where that ternary is going on, which down here. I would just go ahead and call class names. You can pass it this. And then I'm going to go ahead and just say like, if current step is equal to 1, I believe you can just do this. This might be bad. Let me make sure this works. I'll show some other ways as well. Forgot my comma there. I think I have an extra thing going on there. Broke everything, y'all. What's going on? Does that work? So this button is a back button. So if I go back to the back button, does it still work? Seems like it does. So if the current step is 1, we're making it gray and the cursor is not allowed. So this still works. There's other ways you can do it as well. In fact, let me just follow my advice. I'm going to say like const on first step is equal to that. Like there's no need to like have this stuff, I don't know, hard-coded different places. Okay. All right, so you can do it like this. I mean, you could also do it like this if you're not a fan of that. Like you could do this, I believe, with class names. And that'll also like make it look nice and it doesn't really mess up your DOM. So what do I do? So if I do this, if I look at the class of this thing, it looks fine. So yeah, my argument is like, you can say like, let's not bring in more third-party libraries and dependencies, but something like this does make your code cleaner. Like having ternaries sprinkled all throughout your classes is not a cleaner way, in my opinion, to like write your classes. It just makes stuff like hard to understand. This is an example of like when I would be like, okay, yeah, it's fine to use a ternary, but what's really changing between these two things? If you look at it like, oh, green and gray. Okay, that's fine. Okay, let's just try to clean that up as well. I'm just gonna get rid of all those places that he's doing that. What am I doing? All right, what am I trying to do? On first is first step. What do I call that thing? Oh, we're over here again. Okay, this is like a different helper function. So now you guys can prove me wrong in chat if you don't think this is cleaner, but I think it is. Like falling back on an empty string. Why? Like I don't know. Just doesn't seem like it's that clean. All right, let's just go ahead and just keep going through this since I'm kind of on that topic, but I'll check the chat out in just a second. And we can kind of continue doing some more cleanup. All right, let's see if I can do this without messing up the syntax again, like I keep doing. All right, so looks cleaner than me, honestly. So if you don't like that, that's cool. You don't have to do it that way. You can do it the way you want. But is there another way we can like not have current step 1, 2, 3? I mean, I think this is good enough. This is like kind of answering the other question, like when are you over refactoring? Like there's a part of me that's saying like I could refactor this more, but I'm also just stopping it because I'm like, okay, is there a point to like refactoring this? Like we could potentially do something like this, which we have 1, 2, 3. And then we can put this entire link. Oh wait, what am I doing? Yeah, I could do like step classes. Current step is equal to 3. What is he trying to do here? So I think this is just trying to highlight it if you're on that step. Yeah, okay, we could actually refactor this now that I've actually read through the code in a little bit. So what he's trying to do is like, if this is currently selected, he wants to add some additional styling. So I could just go ahead and say like const get selected styles or classes, I guess. And then I'm going to say step, which is a number. Let's just go ahead and return. I'm going to return this whole thing. Now that I think about it, like maybe we could just use a ternary, but. All right, so if current step is equal to step index or something, maybe I can name it better. Then what we could do, I think this is the same class for all of them. If it is, like, oh, it's not, it's different. Well, I think in the UI, I don't know why, like, if you look at the UI, when you go to questions, it doesn't select anything. So I don't know if maybe I messed up when I was refactoring, but I feel like these should have intentionally been, like, the same. Because now, like, it's actually styled. So I'm just going to assume that, like, he wanted to have the exact same, like, selected class for all three of these, and, like, you could just do something like this. Maybe. I don't know. In chat, let me know if I'm just, if I've reached the point where I'm like over engineering, becoming too abstract and dry, or if we're actually like making this code cleaner. All right, so the only way this would actually be useful is if you know for a fact that the highlighted state of these three tabs need to be the same. If you had like different styling, depending on if you're on the questions or the review, then I wouldn't do this approach, but like, I don't know. They're also like all the same too. Like, I think these are the exact same classes. So again, like, what are we doing here? We could just simply take this a step further and say like, general questions, review, return. I'm gonna go ahead and just say like, I'll call it tabs. I guess it's called steps. Steps text. How about that? I know I haven't checked chat in a while, so I apologize for that. But what I'm starting to realize as I'm looking through this code, like this is the exact same link. All three of these are the same link, same style, same everything. So why not just like do this? Do I want to subtract one from it? No, I need to add one to it. Because he's doing like one base indexing. So we could do something like this maybe. And we could potentially, yeah, like we don't even need this function anymore. I thought I was trying to be cool by cleaning this up, but at this point, like we've already found a better way to abstract it. So let's just delete this stuff. What's this complaining about? Key needs to be, I'll just call it step index. All right. Did I break everything? Sure did. General questions review index +1. Don't know if I need parentheses there. I need to go back and like relearn my precedences in JavaScript because sometimes I forget like what is the precedence of you know, ternaries and additions and stuff like that. All right, so you all let me know, like, did I make this cleaner at all? I mean, technically I could have done this too. Don't know if that's cleaner. Probably not. I'd probably keep that out. But yeah, I mean, it works. Looks cool. All right, let me go chat. Okay. Ternary is a good choice if operation has only if and else, and also has a single line inside of it. Yeah, there's some cases where I do use the ternary, like, but other places I just feel like it just adds complexity. I want to configure my GitHub Copilot in Visual Studio. I don't know how to do that. So we just use a ternary operation to check whether we are on the last step or not. Yeah, we could. Let's see. Let me zoom in a little bit. Currently making a image REST API node, any online storage services like S3 bucket. Yeah, I mean, I use S3 for everything. Like if I need to store an image, I'd use S3. It's like the cheapest place to store stuff. What games do I play right now? Sometimes I play CS:GO. That's like the only one I go to, but I just don't really. I load it up for like 10 minutes and then I quit because I'm just like I don't want to play games. Especially on my laptop, it's hard to play CS:GO on a laptop. But I don't want to like invest in like a gaming computer because I just don't have the time for that. Is it correct to fetch data from API each time I go further into page shop fetching products page fetching particular products? I think it's fine. I'm not sure if I truly understand your question, but like as you navigate to different pages, like you should be fetching different data. Why not use React if? Is that like a library? I'm not sure what that means. React if. This? Oh, no. I'm good. I don't find this approach cleaner. I find it even more like I don't know. You'll find out that other people, like everyone has their own preferences of like the cleanest way to write code. I have one way I like doing it. It's just I'm used to that way. But I feel like if I can avoid if statements and just do like what I'm doing, it works fine. For class names, use CLSX. Let's check this out. CLSX, a teeny library for doing stuff with classes. I mean, what's the benefit of this over class names? I guess I'd have to read more about it, but it literally looks the exact same as class names. Like you pass it a string, you can pass it booleans, you can pass it objects, versus the class names library. Has 10 million weekly downloads. This one has 8 million. I never understood that. Like, why do people make the exact same libraries twice? Like, we literally have two libraries that do the exact same thing. Why? Someone can explain to me. I think people just like building stuff and then somehow we like diverging as a community on stuff that's literally the exact same thing. What did I mean by it doesn't mess up with the DOM? I don't remember what I meant by that. Sorry for saying it, but I don't know. We can create a new button component and just receive the label as props. Yeah, I don't know if that's reaching a point of like over abstraction. I probably want to do that in this instance. The only time I like to make new components is if there's actually logic abstracted away. Like if you're just abstracting away like styling or something, I think it's fine just to put the styling on the component itself or find a better way since we're using Tailwind. Like I could make this whole thing as like primary button and then abstract that in my globals here. I could do like, what is it called? Like primary button, and then I could just apply. What am I doing? At apply, and then I could apply all those, right? So that's kind of like what I would do, because I come from like a Sass CSS background where I do think there's benefit to having your styling be abstracted behind class names. But if there's no reason, like unless you end up having like a link that has like actual custom abstracted logic and functionality, it just becomes more of a hassle, because now like you have to add all the extra props every time you need to add any custom functionality to your thing that you're dealing with. But that's my response to this question. We can shrink to a long classes. Yeah, you can use apply. I've literally never coded, so basically all this is like speaking alien to me. Yeah, sorry if stuff's going over your head, but you can move those anchors to a component, and in that component make a function that returns classes based on the current step. So the JSX is cleaner and is declarative in only one spot. I think I kind of did something like that. I don't remember at this point. You each anchor a component instance. No, I would not do that. I think you've reached a point of over abstracting. Like, it's fine to have anchors in your code base. Like, people have like, I've seen people like abstract away everything. Like inputs are abstracted away, buttons are abstracted away. Like, it's cool to have like raw HTML elements in your code, unless you really need like something that's abstracted away. What extension do I use for highlighting errors? I use something called Error Lens. Maybe with a hash map. Yeah, we could use hash map, Error Lens, anchor component. Why not map through an array and render those 3 buttons instead of 3? Yeah. I think that's what I ended up doing. I didn't check chat. There's a lot of repetition here. Good job. Can we make buttons here as components? No, if the constant value is not dynamic. Laptop recommendations. I like using the MacBook. So MacBook Air 1, I've been using that. It works really fast. Not that many complaints about it yet. Do you have a main job? I do. I work full time. This is definitely more of a hobby. I just want to go on here and teach you all and just kind of build stuff for fun. Let's see. I mean, honestly, the goal is also like, grow my YouTube channel and get more money from AdSense. So that's kind of a motivator. I mean, if I'm getting paid X amount of money for publishing videos, like it makes you want to publish more videos. Although it's like right now it's just enough to pay off a couple of bills, but I also like just talking with people, teaching them how to code. So that's also a motivator for making these videos and streaming. Is Bob your uncle? Nope. I can find on Stack Overflow. None of them work for me. Which one are you talking about? Have you tried lexical editor? I'm trying to understand it, but the docs is not done yet. I have never heard of that before, so no. Competition, in my opinion, is the same but lighter. CLSX is lighter than class name. Why you ban me on my second channel? I didn't ban anyone. How are you all? When are you using types versus interfaces? Stack Overflow says they're pretty similar, so should I just stick to one of them? I like using interfaces for functions and types for the things that the function returns and takes in as arguments. Don't know what the best approach is because they are pretty much identical, other than like one has like additional sending functionality, maybe? I'm not sure. Yes, I work as a web developer. Okay, I try to get through these chat questions as fast as possible. Let's see. 143 people. Wow. All right, let's just see if they can refactor some more code. All right, so going through here, I think one thing that's important to notice, like when you're building out components, like you start to see patterns of like where you could kind of split out into subcomponents. Like this whole thing is a subcomponent. every piece of content inside of this could be a subcomponent. Like you have 3 different subcomponents, one for displaying general, one for displaying questions, one for review. And then I think in this code base we're looking at, he made a component for the header stuff. I wouldn't have done that. Like there's very little benefit of like what he did here. So right here, he has a quiz heading and he pulled that out just so he can pass in some props. I would not have done that. I feel like this was just a over abstraction. There's no benefit to doing that in my opinion. So I would have not done that. I would have just kept it right in here inline and just use HTML like as it's meant. And I would just get rid of this whole thing. Like I didn't find any benefit to that. You're not like abstracting logic away. You're just taking components, moving them to another file, and then literally just passing props to render out those strings inside the component. You just like, I don't know. It just added complexity. So. All right. So like I was saying, is this thing auto? I thought I fixed all these. They keep coming back. Again, at the beginning of the stream, I was kind of complaining about how like he put all these on separate lines. I'm not a fan of that, so I'm going to go through and just clean that up real quick. Like you get used to it. I know when you first use Tailwind, like it kind of sucks to have all this stuff on one line, but there's also an extension you can use, I think, that can kind of collapse these and fold them down. So I don't like having these all be on their own line. Especially since like I'm trying to understand the logic of the component. So like having all this stuff take up more lines of code is actually distracting me. Most of the time, like I don't care about the styling. Like I can find where these properties are set and just like clear them out or delete them. Steps component, why is this complaining? I mean, this thing takes in like one thing, so like I could probably just not do that. Don't know where props is used, so I'll delete that. See if I can go to where steps is used. I'm trying to figure out why this is red. Steps cannot be used as JSX component. Its return type is element and not a JSX element. Okay. Probably just need to wrap this in a fragment. All right, there we go. The error's gone. All right, so again, I know I got distracted. I do that a lot in my streams and my coding, but we want to take these subcomponents, like the content of your tabs, and I'm going to make them into 3 separate components. And we can try to figure out how to like clean that up. So it looks like this all the way here. This is step 1. So I'm going to take all the way to the fragment. I'm going to cut that out. And I'll probably put that in a new file, which, yeah, we'll figure out the renaming for the actual like components. But I could say like wizard step 1 ESX. And I'm going to paste that code in like this. All right, now the purpose of that is this file is getting pretty big. It's like 300 some lines of code or more. So what I'm going to do instead is just like make all the wizard steps on their own pages. And we can figure out how to like get this going. It's not exported. Here we go. Go ahead and auto import that. And yeah, so now we'll have to pass in some props. Again, like, I don't know if I want to start with the props here. I'm just going to start with some array destructuring, or object destructuring, I mean. So this thing needs to take in the quiz name. Which I guess we could keep some of this stuff up here, like quiz name and set quiz name. So the reason we're going to keep the state at the higher level is because like you need all this stuff to kind of be shared between your different components, right? So we are just going to go ahead and pass in these right now. Like this could be quiz name, the string, and we could also pass. And what else does this thing need? It needs the setter. Which, let's see. Right now, I'll just do like a function that takes in quiz name of string. You know what? Let me just go ahead and make those props. I don't know why I got rid of that to begin with. Okay. Why is this complaining? There we go. So what else does this thing need? It needs set quiz name. Would help if I put a comma there. Set quiz description, quiz description. So I guess we could do the same for here. Right, and you might ask yourself, like, why, if this component is the thing that needs to know about, like, the quiz name and the quiz description, why not just put the states inside of here? And I foresee us needing to elevate state anyway so that we can, like, get it at a higher level, so I think it's fine to just do this for right now. And then also tags. Set new tag, add tag to list. Yeah, we just go ahead and do that too. Why not? Set new tag. Might need to refactor the name of this a little bit. Actually, I think the add new tag to list might actually could be scoped to this. So let me try to make sure I understand this before I just keep typing random stuff. So the tags, I believe he has an input box, and when you type into it, that's where we're setting the tag and the value of it. But then when you actually click on this button, I think that's taking it and adding it to something at a higher level. So I think what we could do, I'm confusing myself right now, so bear with me. I know you guys are probably solving all the problems in chat right now. Tags and set tags. New tag, and let's just bring both of those over. I don't know which ones we want to use, but I'll put them both in here for right now. And set new tag. What is add tag to list doing? So this is checking to see if there's no new tag, return. So this should take in a new tag now, I believe, which could be a string. And we're going to basically just set the tags and set the new tag. Okay. All right, so what am I doing here? I'm basically allowing the actual array of tags to live at a higher level, but the input box that we're using for setting the tags and stuff, that could be at a lower level. So like we're going to go ahead and just take that in. All right, so on click, this thing, we can call add new tag to list, and we're going to pass it the new tag value that we have stored in state. All right, so the wizard component is in charge of storing the actual like input box value. And then we are going to clear it. So set new tag is equal to the empty string. And then we can also put the logic here, I guess, if new tag, just return, so that we don't have to do it here. Like we'll kind of guarantee that we're always going to get a tag back. All right, does that make any sense? Am I just making this confusing? So deleting tags as well. It looks like he has the ability to delete a tag. So I guess we would need the tags after all. I don't know what a tag format is. We'll have to figure that out. But he's looping over it, so it's an array of something. I guess it's just an array of strings. And we should probably say like on click here, delete tag, like that. And this could take in a delete tag. Bear with me. When I'm refactoring, I do the first thing that comes to mind, and then I go back and reread it, and I see if there's a better way to do it, and then I keep doing that process. So sometimes I do waste time just like going down a path that doesn't work, but I learn kind of the best way to do something by doing stuff like that. I don't like to sit back and like try to plan everything. Tag to delete. So I'm going to delete the string like this. All right, what's going on here? Got too many things going. There we go. All right, so we have delete tag, and we were passing that hopefully to this, like so. And what other things do we need to pass to this? So quiz description could be quiz description. Set quiz description, set quiz description, tags and key, and set quiz name. Set quiz name. What else are we missing? Tags. Does it need a key? It doesn't need a key. I think I'm missing a parenthesis here. There we go. All right, do we have a tag prop? We do. So let me use that tag prop, and I think that'll make our code cleaner in regards to TypeScript. This thing should take in a tag to delete. This thing could take in a new tag text, like so. Set tags takes an array of tags. And this thing, delete tag, needs to take in a tag, which we probably need to auto import it. So let me export it here. And let me import it here from here, I guess. That takes in the tags, and this is a tag text. All right, so let's make sure it works, and then we'll go back and look at chat and see if we're doing something completely terrible. So, I mean, I think it's still working. You can like do stuff. The refactoring went well. Oh, let me fix that real quick. All right, let me go to chat real quick and see what I missed. I don't remember what was the last text message. Let's see. Did you ever have imposter syndrome while developing applications? I don't like talking on this term because I don't think I think the term is misused. Like, I think you have to like understand and what am I trying to say? Like, know your limitations, know your skill level. If you've only been working for 1 year, then you're not an like you don't have imposter syndrome. You are an imposter, right? You're just inexperienced. So I don't like answering this question because I don't feel like I give like a supportive answer for it. But there are times where I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, but I feel like everyone feels that way. Let me just move on from that one. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know how to fix your Heroku errors. You can join my Discord and maybe people can help you there. What's up, BZ? Yeah, so yeah, a lot of people have been enjoying my shorts, so I'm glad you guys have learned something from my shorts. My YouTube shorts, not my actual physical shorts I'm wearing right now. But later, if you want to change how the heading looks, you'll go through all the files and changing all HTML which relates to heading. Trying to understand like what you're saying. I won't go through all the files. I'll just go to one place, right? So like your argument, if I need to change the heading, I'll just go here and change the heading, right? There's no bunch of files to look through. There's just one file that has the heading and I change it. Before, like I'd have another component I have to dive into, which would take me up to the top of here. Now I'm jumping around my entire page, like to figure out how to change the heading. So that's why I don't recommend, like, if you're just gonna pull stuff out into smaller components just for the sake of it, like I don't do that sometimes, unless it's a really, really, really large component and you're like cleaning up a lot of code. Which plugin am I using for online errors? Inline errors is something called Error Lens. The types could be moved to a separate types folder. They could be. I'm not sure if I am a fan of having just global types throughout your entire application. I'm kind of okay with just importing them as you need them. That's just my preference. Is the code structure like in TypeScript? I'm not sure what that question is. What extension are you using for errors? Error lens. Is it okay to pass that state directly as props to components? Yeah, you can do that. Is wrapping wizard tabs in a context a bad idea rather than drilling? You could use context if you want. That could be a potential cleanup we could do if you want to use context. But honestly, like, I don't have a problem with prop drilling if it's just one level deep, right? But if you have to go like 3 levels deep, then yeah, you might want to use some type of context just to save yourself some time passing things everywhere. Why not pass an object? An object where? Like here? Not sure what that question was for. Let's see. Yeah, I like the error lens because it like tells me when I have errors versus like sometimes they'll go unnoticed and I'll waste time like trying to fix issues when like I just didn't see it. As you can tell, I wear glasses and sometimes I miss stuff with my eyes. So like if the errors are red and like in my face, I can quickly fix them and not waste time. Let's see. What do you use for auto import? I just use whatever's built in the VS Code in TypeScript. Do you usually use TypeScript in React? Now I do. All my side projects I've been using TypeScript in my stuff just because it makes life easier. Your set tags call should probably use the callback version of set state, right? Probably. Let's see. Where's that going on? Yeah, I mean, like, potentially you could do that. You wanted to do that. That's cool. We could do that. All right, so sometimes you want to use the callback for setting stuff because, like, you might not have the latest version of the state if it was changed different places. But usually the only time you need to do this callback thing is if you're like calling the same setter function twice in a function. But I mean, we could just do it. Maybe this is a best practice that I just haven't really understood. And now this whole line of code is like not even legible, so. Yeah, so let's make sure that actually didn't break anything. Seemed good. Will you ever do SMTH like this for Vue.js? Probably not. Not right now, at least. I've never used Lua before. I know it's like you use a lot in like game scripting. Like I know I used to play like Gary's Mod and they'd use a lot of Lua scripting. I just never used it before. Which languages and frameworks are most in demand? I don't know. You'd have to go to like Indeed.com and Google some stuff. I'm guessing React and Java. Java is probably still like the most in demand stuff. Like everyone, a lot of enterprises use Java and they probably will use Java for a very long time. And in terms of front end, like everyone's using React, I believe. How do you line up 2 elements in a div vertically? I would probably use Flexbox and like just say like justify items center, or maybe it's a line item center. I don't remember. Is there a way to select the whole line in VS Code with a key combination? Probably. I just use my mouse, like double click the line. Or if you have your, you could do this, if you have your actual like, what I'm doing command shift left arrow and right arrow, like you can just select it like that if you want. I'm sure there's a combination to select the full line though. No, I won't be your teacher in Angular, but you can join my Discord and ask questions there if you want, and people can answer your Angular questions. Passing a single object as props instead of separate things. I mean, this is a single object. This is an object right here. You know what I mean? Like, I see what you mean, but I would say no. Like, don't do that. Wizard step 1. Like, at this point, you're saying, like, pass in some other options, right? And the options would literally have all of these things attached to it, which you're going to end up doing the exact same thing. So there's really no benefit to doing like what you just mentioned. You're literally you're wrapping an object to pass it when this is already an object, right? So no, I wouldn't do that. What did I break here? All right. Do I have suggestions on the React project structure in folder? Of this React project structure? Honestly, I don't think the project structure is important. Like, put stuff where you think it needs to be put. Like, if it's a util, maybe you should put in util. If you have a hook, maybe you put in a hooks folder. You can use the features approach where you have like all the components that are kind of related to a certain thing put into a same folder. That approach works well. I think it makes more sense just to be good at fuzzy searching because like when your project gets so big, like you're not going to be using this tree browser anyway. Like when you have, let's say, 600 different components, it becomes unmanageable to even use this thing, right? So like you end up having to use your fuzzy search to find exactly what you want. What extension shows the errors? It's called Error Lens. Hello, is it okay to use RxJS in a React application for communication between components? Yeah, I don't think it'd be an issue. All right, so someone said the select the line is it's Command L on Mac, just like that. That's how you can do it. Command L. Am I using Storybook? No. Am I a freelancer? No. Do you have a second monitor? No, I just use my laptop monitor. Control L for the controlling of line. Yep. So thank you so much for AJ, Zach, for giving me that information. What are your first recommendations for topics to visit before building an app like this? You should learn how to build applications in like vanilla JavaScript. Learn how to style them, etc. Sorry, I'm reading this one. Yeah, that's actually a good idea. I mean, if they're all identical, which I'm guessing they are, I think this is what another person was commenting about. Like, I could do this. Let's see. Don't know if this will be cleaner, though. Right, so this is what they're saying I could do instead. I don't like that approach. Just looks kind of weird. So I don't do that. But you could do it, yeah. If you like doing it on your projects, then go ahead and do it on your projects. But I'm not a fan of that. So let's I haven't tried Maytime UI yet. What are the benefits of using React as front end for your projects instead of HTML and jQuery? It's hard to explain the benefits of React and Vue and Svelte until you start building your own vanilla JavaScript application that has a lot of functionality, like highly interactive functionality. Like the amount of DOM manipulation you have to do by hand when you're just using vanilla JavaScript or jQuery, it's not fun. Like I don't know why you'd even want to use vanilla JavaScript, to be honest. Like people try to fight for it and argue that vanilla JavaScript's like simpler than React or Vue or Angular, and like have they built large scale applications in JavaScript? It becomes a complete unmanageable mess of things. So it's good to use these frameworks that like force you to do it in a certain way, especially if you're working with a team of people, because like you want everyone to do it the same way, especially when your project has like thousands of components and you're just doing it your own way. Every single file is different and it's just impossible to understand what's going on because there's no consistency at all in your project. But that's my thoughts on that. All right, so same idea here. I'm just going to make another wizard component. And we're going to just pass the things that it might need. Which, let's do this. This one. It looks like it might need a lot. New question. I probably have to understand this more because this one's actually doing a lot of logic. Set new questions. I would like to just make it work first and then I'll make it cleaner. So I'm just going to pass in all the things that we think this thing would need. BS trash. What is that? Import that one. Check if question already exists. This one looks like it could be a utility function that we put right in that component itself. Like, I don't think we need to have that at a higher level. Yeah, so we could also make these defined with props. Added quiz question? What is this one? The state of any. Oh, that sucks. Set new questions. Takes in a question. Again, like, added quiz question. I wouldn't use any if I had more time, but I don't know what the actual like the type is for questions, so we have to go and figure out that stuff. Set new question answer. Set new question answers. Did I just do that one? Anyway, and you can yell at me for not using real types on my stuff, but again, like I'm just doing iterative refactoring. I'm trying to get it the bare minimum to get it working and just moving this stuff into another component because this file is just getting too big. So I would again like just figure out what does wizard step 2 actually need. I like using the arrow functions for my things. All right, why is this not thinking that I'm passing any props? Did I not auto import this? I did not. All right, what's going on? My editor is like going everywhere. Don't need a key there. All right, so step 1, just get this thing working. Get it into a different file. Reduce the amount of lines of code inside of this main component. Split this stuff up a little bit, just so it's more manageable. And then also, like, while we're at it, I mean, let's make sure this works. Type some stuff in, go to the next page. Does this work? I broke that. Oh wait, no, I didn't break it. I guess it doesn't work if you only have... Huh. I think I broke something there. I don't know. I have to go back and figure that out. But yeah, I mean, while we're at it, let's just do wizard step 3. So let's go ahead and like just make another form. And maybe name them something better than 1, 2, and 3 might be better. And let's figure out like what do we need to pass into wizard step 3 to get this working, which what is this stuff? Back. These are the actual like navigation. Technically this could be a separate component maybe. The navigation. But then that's kind of contradicting what I said about the header. I think this is enough. Like there's enough components in here that like abstracting this away to a separate subcomponent might actually help out. Maybe I'm confused about wizard step 3 because there really isn't a... There's like no content for current step equals 3. Maybe this was supposed to be it. I don't know. I probably deleted something. But he really only has like 2 steps, it seems like. The next step doesn't really have anything, at least from what I saw in the original code that I pulled over. I don't see 3 being kind of double checked anywhere, but I probably refactored it away and broke something, but... I don't know. What do y'all think? Should I put this in another component as well? Like the navigation components? It might make sense to do it, or just keep it here as is. Do it. Why not? So we'll make one called like wizard navigation. And we'll go ahead and just paste that in. And let's figure out what we can bring in to get this working. Set current step is on last step. Current step is on first step. On create quiz. Quiz name. You need a lot of stuff to get this working, huh? Tags. Yeah, I feel like there's some red flags. Like a lot of these components know about a lot of stuff. And there's probably ways to like clean this up and not have them have to know so much. But let's just see if we can get this working. So this thing, we need to export it. We need to auto import it. Delete that. And now for the props, we should probably bring in a bunch of stuff, which I'm just going to be lazy and put any for everything. And let's make sure that this thing works. Is on last step. Like, do we actually need to pass that in? It's only used on this component, so like we don't need to probably put it here. So if you wanted to make this thing, I guess, more abstract, like it probably doesn't need to know about current step. Like you can make this smart enough to just know like go forward could be a function, go back could be a function. Is on last step could be an any here, is on first step could be an any. Right, and like I'm gonna go ahead and just like try to refactor a little bit to deal with those. Go ahead and delete that one. And I guess the idea is like, I don't want this thing to know about current step. I'd rather just know how to like go to, what I call it? I call it like go to next step, go forward. I don't know, you guys can let me know in chat if I'm just like going off the deep end with refactoring here. I might be. This one could be go back. Let's try doing this. Go forward is one, which we need to do this, go back. So go forward needs to add by 1. If the current step is equal to 1, then we need to set it to 1. You know, I like a better way I like doing this is I'm going to say math.max of 1 in current step minus 1. That's how I like to do stuff like this. I just basically force like the integers to be truncated at a certain point so you can't go to places that you shouldn't go. Go back should probably, oh wait, go back was the one that was supposed to do that. Go back should go down a step, cap it at 3, or cap it at 1. This one should be the min of 3 plus the current step. Does that make sense? And then is on first step could be like current step is equal to 1, is on last step could be current step is equal to 3. So I'm trying to abstract away like the steps from this navigation. Like it doesn't matter how many steps we have in the app so that this navigation doesn't know about it. Yeah, I don't need wizard step 3 anymore. Let me delete that. On create quiz. I don't remember what we were calling before for creating the quiz, but I'm sure it's here somewhere. On create quiz. I think that was passed in from the page. On first step. These could be booleans. Go back could be a function that does nothing. Go forward could be a function that does nothing. On first step, quiz description. Do we actually need the description here? I'm not sure why we would. Yeah, it seems weird that this has to know about all this stuff. Like, yeah, this is, I think we should instead say like on create quiz clicked. I'd rather do something like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and say like on create quiz clicked is a function that's going to call create quiz so that we don't have to pass like description and all this other stuff to the wizard navigation. Bear with me. I think we're kind of almost done with this. So what does this thing actually need to know about at this point? It just needs to know about quiz name. Does it need to know about quiz name? On click, if not on the last step. Yeah, I don't know about that one. I'll just skip that one for now. Delete that. Delete that. Current step. Don't care about it. Don't care about tags. Does that seem right? Yikes. Let's see what I broke. So I can go back and forward. It's kind of working. This is disabled. This one says create quiz. All right, so let me reevaluate what I'm doing here. So we have this navigation that I'm trying to like not have it care about the number of steps, right? So if there's like 1,000 steps to this wizard, it doesn't need to know about that. All it needs to know is, am I on the first one? Am I on the last one? How do I go forward? How do I go backwards? And then also, when I click on the create quiz button, you got to do something, right? So let's just go ahead and say if quiz name. This one's kind of weird. So now we have the issue with like his original logic did not allow you to go forward a page unless you filled in the quiz name. All right, so we have to rethink what we're doing. Like we could say if the current if is on, what do I call it, is first step. Okay, I'll just do this right now. If the current step is equal to 1, then I'm going to say if there is no quiz name, return. Like Let me do that. Does that make sense? So we don't want them to be able to go forward unless they put the quiz name in. Honestly, you should put some validation and like make this stuff red if you don't do that. But let's take a step back and see what we've done, and is this code actually cleaner? Delete some unused stuff. So we have the steps, which honestly, this could be a separate component as well. Like there's no need for that to be wizard steps. Which one do I want? I want this one. This thing takes in a current step, and that's it. Delete that one. Class names was a third-party library, bring it in. So the only thing this thing needs is the step text, which is hard-coded. So I think this will work fine. And let me just bring that in. Where's that being called again? Wizard steps. Don't need the tags there, I guess. All right, so the main thing, okay, so this file is now 121 lines, so it's a little bit more manageable. And you read through it and you kind of understand, like, just from a code standpoint, what it's doing. Okay, we got some create quiz stuff. We got the wizard steps, which correlate to this stuff up here. And then we have the different contents. So wizard 1, 2, and 3, which isn't even displayed here. I could put a little placeholder just so we know it's like it was there eventually. Put in a div. Like that. So as we go forward, we know we're on step 3, which should probably put a 3 there and not 2. And then we got the navigation down here. So I'm not a fan of the hard-coded 1s and 3s everywhere. Like if you added another step in, then you're kind of, your code's going to break. So I might say like a total steps is equal to 3 here. Just so we can kind of get that 3 out of the hard-coded everywhere, because it's not good. And then the first step, I think I have like, what do I call it, on first step? Step -1, that stuff's fine. Cool. I'm not a fan of this, like the go forward, like it is what it is though, I guess. You have different logic depending on what step you're on, and you need to run different validation. Like we'd probably need to run its own validation for that. And then also in terms of like the wizard step 1, like I'm not sure if wizard step knows too much. The fact that it needs to know the quiz name, or not wizard step 1, wizard step 2. A quiz question. I don't know. Again, like you could keep spending a ton of time on this, but you have to sandbox it, or you have to time box your work when it comes to refactoring. Like you could literally spend a whole day, and I've worked with people who spent like 8 hours trying to refactor a single function. And at some point it becomes like the law of diminishing returns, where you're going to put in a ton of effort to make it cleaner, and you actually end up just making it more complex to understand. So the next things I would probably do is I would go through, and anywhere I have the any keyword, I would actually put real types and actually utilize TypeScript. That's the reason why we're using it, so we can type what's stored in state and type what's being passed in props. So I think doing that would take this code to the next level. But in terms of like the structure of the React and the subcomponents, I think this works and this is good enough. Yeah, let me go to chat real quick, and then let's see. The best way to understand hooks, just use them a lot and read the documentation, I guess. What is my favorite state management library? I like using Overmind.js. You can check that out if you want, but it's a different way of like structuring your React applications. It keeps all your logic out of your components. It makes your state really like a global state tree that you can easily test and verify when stuff's going on. It's the exact same thing. I don't know if they still use it, but the people who made Overmind is the code that uses behind the hood for Code Sandbox IO. So if you ever use Code Sandbox IO and you realize how difficult state management might be in the application, you might realize why they use something and created Overmind.js to manage their state. A really smart guy works on this. He actually has a YouTube channel. I think it's called Christian Alfani. He doesn't really have many subscribers, so like go over to his channel, subscribe, and like tell him I sent him and thank him for his work. But he makes a ton of videos. Like he has tons and tons of videos, and he talks about like higher level stuff, like all about state management and like really thinking about your code and how to make your code more abstract and cleaner. And I'll check him out. Really smart guy. But he made Overmind.js. He also made one called Cerebral.js, which is what we use at our project at work. And again, I think he made all these state management libraries to try to solve a specific problem for Code Sandbox. Stuff was just getting too unmanageable. And he kind of talks to like, he talks about why, he created these libraries, because like he likes mutating state, which I like mutating state as well. And he talks about how like, let me see if I can find an interview with him. Review. If I can find this. Yeah, check this survey out. He has a lot of points that I also agree on. If you want to read about that, but those are the state management libraries I typically use at work. But for my side projects, I just use like prop drilling. It's just easier to not have to bring in a third-party library. Or Zustan. Zustan's pretty good too. Where am I? Let's see. I lost where I was at. Oh, here it is. Is it good to wrap multiple properties into a single object and pass the single object as props, or is it a good way to deal with this? I probably would keep a single prop to a single variable. What about vanilla versus framework execution time? Is it significant? I don't think so. I mean, people talk about performance all the time in UIs, but dude, like if you look at like what we're building here, we literally have like maybe 12 components here. And the browser is written in a pretty efficient way that if you can't render out like 12 components, it doesn't matter if you're using vanilla.js or React or Vue or Svelte. Like, I think people need to stop worrying so much about performance. Maybe it's because I'm on a really fast computer and that's why, but even if I go and like throttle this thing down, 6 times slower CPU, like you literally notice no slowdown. Because these frameworks are built to be fast, and like you can maybe squeeze out more performance with vanilla.js, but why would you want to? It's more important to be able to write manageable code that's modular and easy to understand than to hack your own thing together with vanilla.js. Yeah, in vanilla.js, you have to build your own DOM diffing algorithm, which is literally like the hardest problem that these frameworks are building for us, right? They know how to do a diff, whether they're using proxies or a shadow DOM to basically check your changes against like what's actually being displayed on the page and then like updating the page for you. But the moment you start building anything with scale with vanilla.js, you start realizing why you use frameworks, because it's just a lot of like wasted effort and time. Recommended projects, I would just clone an existing project like Facebook, clone Twitter, clone Instagram, figure out how to build that out with a backend and database. This is Errorlens is the extension I'm using. Yeah, I agree. Just do a Facebook clone and like keep adding features to it. What your recommendations about testing front-end applications, React or Vue? Test them by hand or use just... I would never test anything by hand. Like, it's cool to test stuff by hand when you're prototyping, but at a certain point, you have to write automated testing over your entire application, or else it just becomes unmanageable. Like imagine 9 people pushing code every day to the same code base. Like you're going to break stuff without tests. Like you won't know what broke. I have a Discord channel. You can join that and you can talk to me in one of my channels if you want. If you want a public way to communicate with me. YouTube somehow recommended the stream. I've been watching for at least 15 minutes. I'm a Java developer. Don't understand TypeScript or JS, but still watching and liking it so far. Well, welcome to the stream. Short tip, guys. Try to create and refactor code while you're building them. So that people after you don't start saying curse words to you. Yeah. Let me screw this. Rainbow Indent. It's called Rainbow Indentation, I think. Rainbow Indents is the extension name. The old one retire and leave me with the whole 4,000 line of code to refactor. I waste 2 weeks with that. Yeah, you know you're at a bad code base if you have a file that has like more than 500 lines of code. The moment your file is that long, people just stop caring about like the quality of their work. Like you need to split stuff up in the smaller files so it's easier to manage and read at a glance, in my opinion. Also, at that size, an argument can be made to start from scratch. No, I don't know. I mean, like you saw me took that. I took that like 400, 500 line file and I reduced it and found ways to make it cleaner. It just takes a lot of effort and brain power starting from scratch. It depends on how complex the thing is you're refactoring because you could lose and potentially break a lot of existing functionality. So unless you have tests that cover the functionality, it's hard to refactor existing systems. Yeah, I'm not a fan of doing that. Steps hard-coded in wizard steps should be in multi-step creative quiz form so you can compute the max steps. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good suggestion. So like, I think in the steps, where did I call it? I thought it was here. Was it not here? Not the navigation? I don't know where that file went. Wizard steps? Did I have 2 things called wizard steps? Oh, here it is. So someone was saying that like the steps should be passed in here. And I kind of agree with them. Like this should be a string of arrays. Did I break something? There we go. I think this should be passed in. And the reason this should be passed in is exactly what he said. So like wizard steps is equal to this array. And then I can say dot length here, and then we're done. Okay, so now I can add like another one. I can say like, I'll do in here, I'll say more. And now if I go back to the page, what did I break? There, I have another step and I can actually navigate to it now. Okay, so again, this is why you kind of think about your code and find ways to abstract it and clean it up, because now I can easily add more steps to it. And like, I didn't have to go through any other code base other than this hard-coded thing right here. Like now I could just easily add in another step and like have it display whatever I want. So thank you for that suggestion. That was definitely a good clean code suggestion there. Zustan works fine. I think Zustan's cool. You could also use children instead of hard-coded steps component. Yeah, he's saying I could pass children in here. That would work as well. Kind of like the same. It really depends. If you really need to customize like the styling of every single step that you're displaying, like maybe different ones have different icons, then yeah, you could pass in some children here and like have this thing render it out. But then you have like logic related to the display the steps living in this component, when the idea was we wanted to abstract that away and have all that stuff like encapsulated here so that this thing didn't have to know anything about how to display those tab steps component or whatever. I haven't used Astro.js before, so I don't know. I'm sure it's fine. I'd rather just use Next.js right now. Which library is best for state React Query Redux Toolkit? I mean, I think they're used for two different things. So like React Query is used for when you're fetching data from a backend. You can use it for like state management, but it seems kind of hacky to do that. And then I would never use Redux again. Like Redux Toolkit's okay, but I don't know. I'd rather just use prop drilling or or context. Like there's not many. It's not often you need global state. Like you can just have it at a top level, like I did here. Where is it? This one. Right. So the question you have to ask yourself, like, is this okay? This component has like 7 things to define top level state, and we're passing it down into smaller components. I think it's fine until it becomes a problem, right? When stuff becomes a problem, that's when you refactor it to make it easier to understand and change. If I can't easily go through here and change code, then that's when you need to figure out a better way to store your state. Then V, I love your content. Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you enjoy it. What do I think about Svelte? I think Svelte is really intuitive. I really enjoy using Svelte. But unfortunately, I don't think the job market is caring too much about Svelte, so I rather just stick with React and get good at it because that's what I'm going to get paid with, right? So React is what brings in my paychecks. I haven't checked out whatever you're talking about, Joy UI. It sounds cool. Yo, man, I'm doing placement in year 2023, hopefully in a web development agency. Is there anything you would recommend I learn or build to get ahead of other students? What is the right way to create React app with mobile or desktop versions? What is the right way to create React app with mobile or desktop versions? I don't know what you're asking here, to be honest. If you want it to be responsive, like you just add styling to make it responsive. So like as you scale this page down, you can add classes to make it scale, kind of like this guy did in this application. Is that what you're asking? I wouldn't use create React app. I would use Vite or something, but if you want a mobile version, typically, if you want to get like native performance, you need to use React Native. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Oh, nice. He's going live too. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I'm probably going to drop here soon so you can kind of go over his stream in a second, but why don't you pass it in interface or type? It is unreadable. What is it when you're saying it? There's a lot of things in my code base that could refer to it. So yeah, let me know what you're talking about for interface or type. What themes? I have a video about my themes and extensions. You can go check it out. He has a video telling, yeah, I have a video about that. Some of the questions I'm getting. I'm getting started in CSS. What should I do next? You should learn how to build a website with HTML and JavaScript. And once you get good at that, you can switch over to learning like Vue or React or Svelte or whatever you find easiest to understand how to build like more dynamic applications that fetch stuff from a backend. Instead of using React useState, we can just use useState. Oh wow, I didn't even see that. Yeah, I would definitely not do this. That just, I did not even see that. I would auto import the actual function like that. Good catch. Sometimes you get so laser focused on stuff that's you feel like is higher priority, but like doing this would make the code much easier to read. Wait, what is this multi-step update form? So here's another thing. He duplicated that create component entirely and made another one called update, and he only changed like 3 lines. Never do that in your code. Like, find ways to abstract it if you need to have the exact same like content. Yeah. Tips for me who are shift from Vanilla.js to TSX like me. By the way, EQS a lot for. Oh, thanks a lot for taking first question. Yeah, sure. I mean, you could just start using TypeScript. Like, it's not as daunting as you might think it is. Like, literally, I mentioned this in another live stream. Like, JavaScript and TypeScript, the main difference is when you make a variable. This is a JavaScript here. This is TypeScript. You basically said that name is actually a string. Okay. And then a lot of times in TypeScript, like, stuff is inferred. So like if I said this is a string of hello world, I think this is going to give it the type of hello world. So like if I were to like console log this and hover over this, you see it says let name is equal to a string. So by default, TypeScript is just going to give this the type that it thinks that this thing is. If I gave this a number, then this will become a number, right? So it's not too hard to get started with TypeScript. What gets hard is if you start having to deal with generics like this stuff, where you're basically forcing a React to know that like this array is actually an array of tag objects and not like random stuff. Yeah, I think this would be good content to make, like talk about CI/CD and how to like maybe set up a pipeline to do testing and linting and whatnot. I just have to do a lot more prep work for it because it's a little bit more involved and kind of confusing. Will CSS, HTML, and JavaScript and React be good enough to find a job? I don't know. Oh, and React, yeah, I think that's good enough. If you can build out an actual like application and you can convince a potential company or employer that like, hey, I can build you what you want, I think it's enough. It depends on where you live too. You might need to like learn about data structures and algorithms so you can pass those silly little interview question tests. But yeah, if you get good at building stuff, you can probably get a job. I don't think you'd want to change from Angular to React. There's nothing wrong with Angular, right? Angular has a lot of structure to it. It has like great ways such as dependency injection. I believe that they still have that in Angular, which is a convention that's actually really good for building out testable quality software. And I don't see any big issues with Angular, to be honest. I know people hate on it, but I don't think you get much of a benefit from going from Angular to React, to be honest, unless your application is just super slow or you need to like use like Next.js to build out server-side rendering or something. Testing should happen via pull request before you commit it to the repo. I don't agree with this statement. You can test, but imagine if you have a project that has about 10,000 unit tests and 1,000 integration tests. To run those tests locally, you're going to be sitting there for like 30 minutes or longer. I think our integrations take about an hour to run sequentially and about 10 minutes to run in parallel with different workers. So if you're going to sit there for an hour to let your integration test run on your local laptop before you push it to the repo, you're wasting a lot of time. So I would instead pay the extra money just to have your CI/CD runner run and test your code. You can run like the unit test locally, but even so, like unit tests can take up to like 10-20 minutes depending on how powerful your laptop is to run. There's also like ways you can commit your code and tell the CI/CD pipeline to skip running tests. Like you can do like a skip CI flag so that you don't waste money and you don't waste, the CI/CD resources. But yeah, I think when your project reaches a certain scale, this statement just doesn't even, like, you can't. It's impossible unless you just want to waste a bunch of time watching your tests run locally. Because sometimes you're working on like 3 different things at the same time, 3 different tasks, and you need to push a fix for one, context switch, and work on another task, and then you keep on looking at Circle CI to see if it's passed or not. How do you type components? Yeah, you can type components just by doing this, what I'm doing right here. Right? Another way is you could, I think I did it on one of these other ones. I think people do this a lot where they just, this is the props, they destruct them and then they set them equal to props here. That's like the common convention that everyone uses, I believe. You can also use FC if you want to. You have a flag for skipping tests. Tests are getting skipped anyway. Yeah, I mean, you can add like .only and .skips on your local tests if you want to speed them up, but yeah, then you're not testing the entire application as a whole, like you're just testing a smaller portion of it. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the stream. I'm actually going to bounce, so join my Discord if you want to talk to me directly or kind of talk to my community of people. Hopefully you guys learned something through this refactoring. Hopefully you guys think that this code is actually a little bit cleaner than it was before. Let me know. I think it's a bit cleaner. I think it makes a little bit more sense, but like always, there's just more, when you have more time to invest in refactoring, there's ways you can make this stuff cleaner. And there's stuff that you just don't think about it on a live stream of like what to do to make it better, but I think this looks better. And yeah, be sure to leave a comment, leave a like, do whatever you need to do, and stay tuned for when I do another stream in the future and when I release more shorts and YouTube videos. I hope they are helping you all, and I hope to see you all soon when I stream again. What is Sam talking about? I'm using something called Erlins, and if you scroll up, the same question has been asked about 20 times by different people, so definitely check that out. And also my description of the videos will start having my extensions use. Have a good day. Oh, can't talk. Later all. Have a good day.